Very warm good evening to all. Today we'll be studying what is bailable and non-bailable offences. Though the wording seems to be very easy, where we can get bail are bailable offences, and where we cannot get the bail from the police station or from the simple just by telling the magistrate by submitting that offences are non-bailable, there we are not going to get the bail. But does it mean that some offences which are non-bailable, we will never get the bail? No, that is not the answer. There is an anticipatory bail where you can approach the session court and high court for anticipatory bail in non-bailable offences. For bailable offences, it is accused right to get the bail. Now, where do we find in the IPC or CRPC whether the offense is bailable or not? If you read any IPC section, you will find that the section is bailable or non-bailable is actually given in that same schedule. What is the punishment? And another one more thing which is given is there, whether it is compoundable or non-compoundable. Now meaning of compoundable and non-compoundable कि समझौता किया जा सकता है और समझौता नहीं किया जा सकता है. Simple. बेलेबल जिसमें बेल मिल जाती है, जामीन मिल जाता है. नॉन बेलेबल जिसमें जामीन नहीं मिल जाता है. तो लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड कि बेलेबल ऑफेंसेस इट इज अक्यूज राइट टू गेट द बेल, and in non-bailable offences you have to plead before the court, convince the court. The accused may be enlarged on the bail. The word is enlarged on the bail. He may be granted bail, he may be allowed to go on bail, and he has to, once he secure his bail, he will be available for the trial. Now here what we have to see, that bailable offences, even the police can give the bail. Now one more thing you have to read here, this is Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar, which is a Supreme Court judgment of 2014. We said that offences which are bailable or non-bailable is different thing, where the punishment is up to 7 years. The accused may not be arrested unless and until there is a sufficient reason with the police that the accused has to be arrested. Maybe he is a regular criminal, or the crime is such heinous or done with such cruelty that he has to be arrested, or there is some strong reason for doing, he is likely to abscond, or he is a regular challan shitter. The regular challan shitter means he is the he has lot of criminal antecedent against him. Uska jo past ke bahut sare cases hai, so there are many criminal antecedent to his discredit, that we can see. Now in this bailable and non-bailable, always remember bailable, the accused has a right to ask for the bail, and in non-bailable offences you have to convince the court. And another thing you can do is that you can always go to the session court for anticipatory bail if you are apprehending arrest by your client is apprehending arrest, or your accused is apprehending arrest, they maybe get a call from the police station. But mind it, read the Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar, which is very basic for the rules and regulations which guides the arrest guidelines here. There is also DK Basu, but which is now Arnesh Kumar is not overruling, but it is the final last judgment by the Supreme Court, which comes to our rescue. Now there is another aspect to this, that is compoundable and non-compoundable. Now compoundable offenses are those offenses where it can be compounded. There is simple possibility that two people, two neighbors, or two brothers, two sisters, they fought, and then they say, no, we do not want to go ahead with the matter, it is out of misunderstanding. Then they want to compound the matter. Now compound means to agree for a settlement. In criminal trial also there are some offenses which are compoundable. Now compoundable has two parts, one with the permission of the court, one without the permission of the court also. It does not mean without the permission of the, even you have to plead before the court that I may be we may be permitted to compound the offense, or court may permit us to compound the offense. Only two there is a difference of one application, two more papers. If it is compoundable with the permission of the court, you have to ask the permission that we may be allowed to compound. And if you have already compounded, the parties are allowed to compound the offense, that is the complainant. In accident cases, sometime if it is not a very grievous hurt, In accident, it's a small accident, bicycle, auto rickshaw, then you can compound the offense. It depends. It's an example where you can compound the offense by the person who is injured. If there is a cycle and there is a even medical report is very strong, and over the years the parties do not want to go into litigation, they can go to the court and the compounding. Of course, the punishment will be very lesser for that, but if they compound, there will not be punishment. So it is compoundable with the permission of the court and without the permission of the court. The only difference there in the where the permission required, you have to give the application and asking the court the permission to compound. And court may look into the papers and see who is injured, who is the complainant. So complainant and injured parties, whoever, their consent is required, because there may be an accident case where two people are injured. One is complainant in the FIR and another is the person who is the victim. These two people has to be combined. If there is a minor, then the mother or the father or any next guardian can come and compound on behalf of the minor. Now there are some non-compoundable offenses. Now this cannot be compounded at any cost. I'll give some matters such as rape charges, murder, half murder. These are very serious matters. Now even if the complainant accused wants to compound the matter, it cannot be compounded. And the reason behind it, these are offenses against the society, and they are so serious that they cannot be allowed to compound. But there are Supreme Court judgments which says that even this kind of, not murder, but there are some 307 IPC matter, 326 IPC matter, where the hurt is very grievous on the vital part of the body. If the matter is between two brothers or the family members, between matrimonial dispute, husband and wife, the court may permit. Now mind it, 498A is a non-compoundable matters. In Parliament, there is a bill pending to make it compound, because we have a lot of family matters. Out of 100, there are 75% matters are the family disputes or the property disputes between the family members. Lot of matters. There are commercial dispute, and the government is the biggest litigation. So family matters, in 498 matters, it is not compoundable offense. But if the parties want to settle, then where do we go? We have to approach the Honorable High Court of the respective state, where we can, like we are, if I'm staying in Mumbai, and then I can approach the High Court, that is the Bombay High Court, and say, it is a matrimonial dispute. We have actually settled the matter between us amicably, and we may be allowed to compound the matter. There, it was out of misunderstanding, and now we do not want to litigate against each other. We want to live peacefully. And under 482 CRP, there is that section which allowed the quashing of the complaint. It will not be compounding. It will be quashing of the complaints, that is FIR and the charge sheet. That is the before the Honorable Bombay High Court. It will be called quashing under section 482 CRPC. So these are the very sections important. I will read out but where you will find out which offenses compoundable, which are non-compoundable. Let's go to section 320 of CRPC. I'll read the relevant part. Compounding of the offenses. The offenses punishable under the sections of the Indian Penal Code specified in the first two columns of the table next following may be compounded by the persons mentioned in the third column that table. If you have 3 in 1, you will be finding this table. The table section of the Indian Offence Penal Code, person by whom offence applicable may be compounded 1, 2, 3, uttering words, etc., which 298, the person who's deliberate, intent to wound, GS feelings. This is not given in a table format, but there are some section 320, 324, the person whom the hurt is caused. So if you read section 320, you will find that there are, which is saying that these are the offenses which can be compounded. Now, there are also another column, the offenses punishable under section of Indian Penal Code. Specified in first two columns of the table, next following may, with the permission of the court before which any prosecution for such offense is pending, be compounded by the person mentioned in the third column of the table. Now, this table, if you just go through it, you will get all the idea which are the offenses which can be compounded. So, today, what is our study is bailable, non-bailable. you have to read it again to understand, or watch this video again. Then the compoundable, non-compoundable, then 482 CRPC, and most importantly, to understand section 320 CRPC, which is completely specifying which are the offenses compoundable, which are not compoundable. Now next we go to the reading by Chinmay. Chinmay, would request you to unmute, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a minute.
I have unmuted. Am I audible?
You're audible. Just a minute. This is Odisha High Court judgment where disputed questions of facts are involved. A petition under Article 226 of Constitution is not a proper remedy. Leading of evidence and examination, cross-examination of witnesses required. Now here, चिन्मय जी आप पढ़ सकते हो?
जी मैम.
हाँ, शुरुआत कीजिए.
Orissa High Court, a division bench of Chief Justice S. Muralidhar and Justice B.P. Rautre dismissed the petition being devoid of merits. The facts of the case are such that the petitioner, since the time of his forefathers, is in peaceful possession over a piece of land. Being a landless person, he applied to the Tehsildar Sambalpur for settlement of case land in his favor under the provision of Odisha Government Land Settlement Act. Earlier, he had approached the court in writ petition number 4576 of 2014, which was disposed of by this court by order dated 15th April 2014, with a direction to Tehsildar to dispose of the petitioner's application in accordance with law. The petitioner contends that during the pendency of his application, the opposite party, without disposing of his claim as per the earlier orders of this court, are trying to dispossess him in an arbitrary and discriminatory manner. The instant petition is filed by the petitioner, praying that the case land be settled in his favor. Counsel for petitioners, Mr. B.P.B. Mahali, submitted that state is duty-bound to provide shelter to its citizen who is landless person. The petitioner resides on the case land by constructing a house over a portion of the same, and the remaining portion is used for cultivation purpose. The petitioner submitted that he earns his livelihood on daily wage basis, and such he fulfills all eligibility criteria for settlement of the land in favor as the provision of Orissa Government Land Settlement Act and rules. The counsel for respondents, Mr. S. Patnaik, submitted that the amendments made in
writ petition.
Ma'am, I'm unable to see the last lines. Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Amendments made in the writ petition are not correct, as the petitioners was never in possession of the case land. As per field inquiry conducted by revenue inspector, the case land was found a vacant piece of land, and alienation was initiated in favor of Western Electricity Supply Company Limited for establishment of grid substation. It was further stated that the case land come under category 3A, reserved for public developmental process in terms of section 3(1) of the Orissa Government Land Settlement Act. Hence, ma'am, scroll.
Just a minute.
Hence,
submitting.
Hence, submitting that neither the petitioner nor his forefathers were in possession of the case land at any point of time. The court observed that on detailed scrutiny of the entire material, the court is unable to find anything to support the petitioner's claim. The petitioner has not brought anything on record to support his claim of being a landless person covered under the Odisha Government Land Settlement Act for settlement of the case land in his favor, or that he was in possession of the same from the time of his forefather. The court relied on judgment Grid Corporation of Orissa Limited versus Sukamani Das, 1999 Supreme Court, and held that the present writ petition raises highly disputed question of facts which would require the leading of evidence and the examination and cross-examination of witnesses, and which are therefore not amenable to be adjudicated under Article 226 of Constitution.
Thank you so much. Now,
thank you, ma'am.
Chinmay, see what Chinmay read is a little difficult to understand actually what we have understood. Though it says it's about the cross-examination, there is nothing about the cross-examination here. Now here we will discuss the two aspects. Here the person has gone under Article 226, he filed a writ petition. The Orissa High Court says that writ petition can be filed only in cases where there is no proper remedy. Now here there was a question of disputed facts. Who was the landowner? Who was in the possession? What was the land was offered under the Settlement Act? What are the way the revenue officer can find out from the field inquiry? Now this is actually a land acquisition matter, where the government acquires sometime land or in the settlement some land. You must have heard from your parents or your grandparents that we had this land, but then we have to give it to the government for the road development or some other project. Now here I would like to draw your attention that the court said it will require this matter where the person, the petitioner, has come to the High Court. No, we cannot examine all these things in the Article 226. It requires leading of evidence. Usko court mein evidence dalna padega. So the High Court will not go into evidence. See, for evidence, what is meant, trial courts are meant for the evidence. Now for leading of evidence, then examination, cross-exam witness will be required. So it is under writ petition, it is not amenable, and they have to go approach the proper trial court, which will be civil court, being a civil matter here. This is what it has been saying, this judgment. So under Article 226, I have a video. I will request the Vandana to put into the group that when when there is an alternate remedy available, the Article 226 cannot be, you can go to the High Court, but not when there is actually you have an alternate remedy. If you don't have any remedy and it is a violation of your fundamental right or legal right under Article 226, which protects. See, under Article 32, you have to go to directly to the Supreme Court, but under Article 226, you can, so the High Court has got a more wider power than the Supreme Court, because High Court also protects your legal rights. If you read Article 226, this is much wider. There is one video I will request Vandana to share in the group about Article 226. Another aspect I would like to discuss here is about the cross-examination. Now, though you may read a lot of things, you may hear the videos, it is every case is different from the one case. So how do we cross-examine? There may be a possibility that two matrimonial dispute may be also be different. There is a possibility that two murder cases, two murder trials will be also different. So how do we cross-examine? Now the basic idea to cross-examine, I would request some are the basic things which which are common for all the matters, that you have to just read the charge sheet. If it is the criminal matter, if it is a civil matter, of course the pleadings of the clients, and always you have to remember you cannot go beyond pleadings. आपको pleading के बाहर जाना ही नहीं है in the civil matters. And now when we are talking about the criminal matters, which I do more, here we have to stick to the charge sheet. There are some, if we remember the charge sheet completely by heart, if the witness comes and tell before the court, whatever deposition he has to say, if in charge sheet he says, he has given me blow with the sword, he has attacked me with this sword. Now, before the charge sheet says there was a hockey stick in the before the court, then you can contradict. See, the statement before the police can be used to contradict. So it's better, and or the omissions, or the contradiction, or the improvements, or maybe any embellishments. So these are the things you have to look into this. So in criminal matters, easiest thing is you read the charge sheet completely, and whoever the witness is coming, read that his witness, his statement, read it thrice, 5 times, 10 times. So you know it by heart. You don't have to, when he was in the court, when he is in the court and he is submitting, he is deposing before the court, and the judge is getting it typed from the stenographer, or it is recording the evidence, you know exactly what is to be asked. And there is a possibility he may have omitted something which is connecting to the offense. Then you need not have to get those things by asking in the cross exam. I'll give you a simple example. If he has said that 3 people came and hit him. Now here and there are 3 accused before the court, A, B, and C. And in the court he said, A has beaten me up, and he does not name B and C, or he says only A and B, and C is not naming C. Then he do not say why he has not named C, because in a way, actually he has not given any accusation to C. So actually by his own act he has saved C. So if you ask why you have not named C in your, and in charge sheet you have said before the statement, this is not a point to be discussed with the witness. This is a point of argument that his evidence cannot be relied. In the charge sheet he has said that you can only contradict or take out an omission or embellishment before the court. So when that he has not named C, so it is actually very useful that at least C can be released or relieved of all the accusation which are against him. He will be acquitted. So you have to remember what is to be asked in the charge sheet, what is to be asked in the cross examination. So, and cross examination, one thing which you can learn by reading, another thing is by reading the judgment, by sitting in the court, watching the senior advocates. And there is a possibility the advocate who's sitting there may be making a mistake. See, when I stand, I may be making a mistake which I may not know. But when you are observing from the away, you are observing from a distance, you may be knowing it very, this is the question I should not have put. And it is very difficult because you have to handle the judge, you have to handle your client who's sitting behind or standing behind. And the cross examination, if you have observed in the court, how it is done. I will be asking the question as a defense lawyer. The witness will be answering, the judge will be hearing it, and judge will be, what the judge will hear, he will again dictate it, and the typist will be recording it. And when see, there are 4 stages of this. And when the typist records the same, you have to always put your ear what the typist is actually recording, and what the witness has said, and what the judge has said. Sometimes there is also, because of the commotion in the court, or because of some reason that witness is having a language problem, which is again translated into English by the judge, there may be a difference. So you have to just see your ears and eyes has to open what is going in the court. There is a possibility there is a complainant's lawyer or the public prosecutor who may be giving hints to this happens in the court. So you have to remember, maybe the public prosecutor or the complainant's lawyer may be leading or maybe hinting. That also you have to be very careful, that there are lawyers who just gets up. Now this is what you have to all remember. So it's an art, and unnecessarily should not disturb the witness. But if it is going against us, and we know that the witness has been hinted, and what is going to be recorded, witness has said no, and the court is recording yes. See, there will be a possibility of yes and no. Witness may have said there are 5 people, and court may have court may be recording 4 people or 6 people. You have to remember what is, you have to just give your attention 100%. So it is the most difficult part, but trust me, if you are prepared, it is the most easiest part also. and it's an art which you will be learning over the years. And one more thing I would say, that if suppose I get an accident case, which I have repeated so many times, first trial matter which I got an accident case from a very senior lawyer, and he said he doesn't have time, I do not know whom to look for. I was also in hesitation to go and ask help from the other lawyers, but I did one more thing. I went to library, I saw the section, it was 279, 338. I tried to read all the last 5 years judgment of the Bombay High Court and the Supreme Court. And trust me, I know what I can ask in the cross examination. So you can be your own Eklavya by just reading the judgments. And if you read this judgment, you will know what questions you can ask. You can also know what mistakes you have to avoid. And when you read the judgments, always there are opponent sides lawyer, public prosecutor, or if it is a private, it may be a complainant's lawyer and private public prosecutor, private complainant's lawyer. You can always look into what points they have raised, and these will be the points which will be very useful. So cross examination is an art, but it's not an art which you cannot learn. In fact, you will go on evolving the art. In fact, a junior sometimes takes a better cross examination than a senior. The only reason he has read the brief, he knows the brief. Brief means charge sheet or the pleadings of the matter. In civil matter, it will be pleadings. So always remember what you can read from the charge sheet, what the witness is saying in the court, what the court is recorded. And once the court has recorded, always ask for a copy. So you will know instantly what has been recorded. If there is a mistake, there is a spelling mistake, or there is a major some mistake, you can always bring out to the court. Sometimes there is a possibility typist may also make some mistake. So it is very useful. It is up to you how you can evolve as a defense lawyer or a exam or a trial court lawyer. And trust me, trial court lawyers are superstars. If you run how to do the trial, that is there are two basic trial courts in the criminal practice, that is magistrate court and the session court. If you know how to run the trial here, you will be excelling in the field. You will be any court in India or elsewhere you will go, you will be able to do excellent job. But those who can, I have a strong it is my personal opinion, those who have not done trial court matter, for them it is really actually sometimes difficult in the high court to understand actually what has happened. So it is very important that you go through the trial court matters and try to give at least first 5 years of your life as a lawyer to go to the nearest trial court, which I spoke to Chinmay also today, that you should go to trial court. It's from BR, if I'm right. So I have requested him that if you appear in the trial court, you will be knowing it better. And another thing, if you are from a remote village area or whatever area, Kalyan, Mumbai, Thane, or in Bihar, Patna, don't jump to go to the high court directly. Go to the trial courts. And once you know the trial courts, if you get a high court, occasionally you go to high court and even the Supreme Court. See, these are the temples. All the courts are temples for us. But if you go directly to High Court, Supreme Court, you will not be knowing what actually done. I'll give you a simple example. If it is a murder happens in your vicinity, the first thing, on the remand, the accused is taken to the where? It will be taken where? It will be to the magistrate court. And if you do not know what will happen, if you do not know the proceeding of the magistrate court, and if there is a murder trial, which will be your approach as a lawyer, it will be session court, it will not be high court. High court, it is for appeal. So always remember that you have to approach these two courts first. So basically, you should know what is going on there.